Hey guys, I just wanted to go over some BlackJack tips for you. Basically, first up, most important, play your game. You know, sometimes you'll have some tables where players will be grumpy, they'll be grouchy, or they want to talk about like how you should play your hand and things like that. And here's a perfect example. When you have a 12 versus a 2, everybody would presumably stay with these hands anyway. So we talk to the player with the 12. Proper basic strategy: you're supposed to hit a 12 versus a 2 and a 3, but it's one of those things where your advantage by doing so is like that tiny. It really doesn't matter if you do or don't. As far as the other players are concerned, when if you decide to take a hit, all right, so now you've got an 18. Then the dealer ends up making a 17. Say if somebody at the table had something that was worse, like the 17, right? Then he gets mad at this guy because it's like if he didn't take this card, then the dealer would have ended up breaking and he would have gotten paid. Every now and then you get in a situation like that. Don't let that phase you. Play your game, because at the end of the day, when you win money, it's or somebody else at the table wins money, they're going to go home with theirs. You're going to go home with yours. So another thing too is to I'd like to just make sure you should make sure to take care of your dealers whenever possible, because the other people make it happen. They're just the messenger. If things are going bad, it's not cool to kind of blow up at him, because all he's doing is just dealing cards. So. And a lot of times what you could do, you could put up a bet in front of your hand for the dealers. All right, and for here, everybody's betting 200, so you put 5 up for the dealer. What you want to tip, that's entirely up to you. At the lower limits, if you're betting say $10 or $15, then like $1 in front for the dealers, it's much appreciated. And then what's going to happen here is that the hand's going to get played out. Right, and then assuming everybody plays correctly here, he's going to want to double on this 13, on this soft 14. Makes 21. It's good for him. All right, and then with this this here, make him double. Makes 20, which is good. Then he decides to double. And putting up a tip for the dealer, when you double down, that's entirely up to you. You don't have to, but it's always appreciated for the dealer. So then in a case like this, when the dealer ends up making 18, the dealer thanks you for the action here, but then takes the money. And then here on these hands, then everybody else wins. So then they get paid twice, dealer gets paid twice. We do these for all of these hands here. And then when all the cards get swept up, then the dealer thanks you very much as he collects his tips. Yeah, it's not bad. So basically, don't let other people intimidate you with the game, because a lot of times new players won't play because they're a lot of times people will be mean at the blackjack tables. If you don't know how to play, they'll either bark orders at you or they'll just get angry. All right, but at the end of the day, like how you play is how you play. It doesn't really affect anybody in any other way. So just go in and just be confident. If you have any other questions, the dealers are always there to help you. Some dealers will you get like the grumpy dealers that don't want to be there. Probably don't want to be at his table anyway, but if you are, a lot of times they'll actually help you out with, what should I do with this hand, or what should I do here? What do most people do on this one, right? And then that way you could just let them know, right? You could just let them know that you're new, and then they'd be more than happy to help you out, because if you're new and you get scared off the table and then you never want to play again, then, then that's just bad for everybody. Hey guys. As I explained in an earlier video, You know, I went over the very basics on how to play blackjack when you sit down at the table, exactly how everything works as far as you know, getting your money in, getting your hands, and hopefully getting paid. Now I just wanted to go into, you know, exactly like the nitty gritty and how you're going to play the game, right? Because you know, the object of the game, true, is to get as close to 21 without going over. But more importantly, is this here, where, you know, this part right here, it says dealer must draw to 16 and stand on all 17s. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about exactly, you know, what that means and, you know, how you're going to use that to your advantage. So if we're dealing out some cards, you know, there's sometimes when, you know, when the dealer, you know, is showing a 10 or like a 9 or an 8, you know, then he's considered strong. So then you'd have to play differently than if the dealer was showing a 6, in which the dealer is weak. You know, like a lot of times people will, you know, will be inclined to hit a 13 versus a 6, just thinking, okay, they're not very strong with the 3, right? With the 13. So what happens? They hit, and then they bust, and then I got to take their money, right? Where the dealer had 13, dealer had to hit also. Then, you know, the dealer busts and everybody wins, and that's the crux of basic strategy, where knowing when to, you know that 13 is enough to win the hand, because a lot of times when the dealer is showing a 6, something like this will happen, and then everybody at the table will get paid. When the dealer is showing a 7 or higher, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, ace, then your goal is to get to soft 17 or better, right? You know, if you have a 16, then just take a card, try to get to 17 as best as you can. When the dealer is showing a 2 through a 6, he's considered weak. So any hard total that you've got from 12 and up is fine, because anything past 12, you know, anything past 11, then if you take another card, you can potentially bust. And the way that the game works, you go first, dealer goes last. So even if you break and the dealer breaks, you still lose because he takes your money. So, you know, the idea is to basically stay in the game long enough for the dealer to do what you want him to do, which is break, and then you get paid. And now those are some basic strategies that'll get you started at the table. Hey guys, I just wanted to go over blackjack betting. A lot of times, you know, you have a lot of people who, you know, they have their methods or systems, or, you know, like whatever they want to call it, and like how to bet. There are a couple of, you know, there are a couple of right ways to do it. There are a couple of wrong ways to do it. I'm going to go into like a few of the methods, and then you could use whatever is comfortable for you. First up, you got a lot of people who, you know, what I call, you know, what is called flat betting, where you say, you know, they're in for $100. And, you know, it's like, and it doesn't matter what happens, win or lose, they're betting $100 every time, like $100, $100, $100, $100, $100. A lot of times, what you'll get also are people who, you know, they use like a system, you know, like a really popular one, you know, it's like called the martingale system, right? Where basically, you know, you bet $100, right? And then say you lose the bet, and then you follow that up with a bet of $200. And then if you lose that bet, then you follow that up with a bet of $400, right? And, you know, that requires you to have a whole lot of money, one, and then two, you know, if you end up with like a whole string of losses, then you are wiped out. So, you know, I wouldn't recommend that. Instead, what's, you know, like I would recommend two ways. The simple way would be to use like a high-low betting system, where say if you're betting $100, right, you win your hand, then the next bet you go to 200, because, you know, that 100 was your low, 200's your high. And then as you keep winning at the 200s, right, once you lose a hand, you go back down to 100, right? And then that way, you know, that way you're trying to maximize like the amount of money that you actually have out there while you're winning, and minimizing money you have while you're losing. And I just use the 1-200 as an example. You know, for like lower limits, if you're betting, say, like $10, you know, you could make that spread as wide as you'd like. You know, whatever is going to make you feel comfortable. If you wanted to bet $10 and then say you win and then you go to $50, right, and then you keep playing $50 until you lose and you go back to 10, that's entirely up to you if you want to try it that way. way that I personally play, I do progressive betting, and what that does basically is, like it maximizes on, on streaks that tend to happen in the game, where it's like if things are going really well, then, I'm actually, I just keep betting and betting and betting and betting. And one of the things with that, all right, say if I'm betting 50 a hand, say if I win 2 bets in a row, right, then I start going up. I'll go to 75, then I'll go to 100, then I'll go to 150, then I go to 200, then I go to 300. And the whole methodology behind this is that even if I can win all of these hands in a row, if I bet 400, and if I were to lose, then I lose the 400 right here. But then this is all profit. And then I would start back at 50 and then, kind of work my way back up again. That I find that to be a very powerful system. It works very well. And as far as, like your limits, a lot of times people are comfortable, betting like a lot of lower limit players will stop at about $50, right? Where, I think if, $50 is considered big, if it's a big hand to you, it's a big hand to you. So what, a lot of times what people will do, they get up to $50 and then they just start flat betting at 50. It's like if that's what you're comfortable with, then that's fine. As long as once you're done, once you lose, then you drop down. But personally, I just keep going and going and going until I'm like into betting, thousands or 2,000s or 3,000s. But that's all personal preference there. And yeah, that's how you bet in blackjack. Hey guys, wanted to go into some mistakes to avoid at the blackjack table. There are a few. It's not as daunting as you may think it is. It's not really a whole lot of things that you need to avoid. But I just wanted to touch up on the basic ones. Here we've got like a wide set of circumstances where a lot of people will kind of do the wrong thing. In the case here, you got the player here with 15. One of the big mistakes is that players will get a little too passive with their hands. Like say 14s, 15s, 16s. Even when the dealer is, it doesn't matter what the dealer is showing, they're just afraid that they're going to bust, so they're not even going to bother. And that's kind of that's not really a good way that you'd want to play because generally with the deal showing like a card like say like this 9, he's going to make a hand more often than he's not going to make a hand. So by just deciding okay, I'm not going to hit my 15, in the long run you're going to end up costing yourself a lot of money. So in the case here, he hit, but it's like he ends up over 21, but at least he gave himself a shot against the 9, as opposed to just kind of like being a sitting duck with a 15. A lot of times, another thing players will do too is they'll be a little too they'll be a little too aggressive with their hand, where the player will have like a soft 14 versus a 9, and he'll do something like he'll just want to double down on it because he just wants to get more money out, which that never works out very well because any hand where you can't make at least a 20, that's generally not a hand you're going to want to double down on. True, he can make a 6 or a 7 with the 3, but if he misses, which most of the time he will, or now he's got a 12. He's stuck with the 12, nothing he can do about it, and he's got 400 out versus a 9. Another thing that people want to do, it's and this falls under the category of aggressive, is do moves like splitting 10s, right? Where the deal, then everybody at the table will probably kind of wince as you do it. You split these 10s, now you're looking for 2 10s or better. Now you've got a 15, and then you elect to hit the 15. He lucks out with the 20, right? But then this hand here, he's got 18, he's behind. So if the dealer ends up making a hand, then he will more than likely, he'll more than likely just push, as opposed to if he would have won straight out with the 20. And another thing falls under like aggressive plays would be splitting too often, right? So a lot of times people will like want to split a pair of 7s because they want to get more money out just for whatever reason. Right, so now you got one hand that was like okay, the 14, but now instead, now you've got a hand where, you know, it's like you turn your one, you know, your one marginal hand, now you've got two of them that you're stuck with. So decide, you know, he wants to hit the 16, now he busts. It's like, now he's got a 17 that, you know, that he's stuck with. You know, what's going to happen now, he's hoping he had a 19. He did, and he's got a 14. Dealer draws to a 20. So now he just lost 2 bets, all right, by, you know, by splitting his 7s, right? And he, you know, he loses his bet, all right? And then you've got the guy who decided to split his 10s, right? He loses one of them, he pushes one. So, you know, he could have just stayed and, you know, whatever would have happened with the cards would have happened with the cards, but instead, now he loses money. And then the guy who was aggressive with his soft, you know, his soft 14, you know, he ended up with his hard 12. You know, he ends up losing as well. So, you know, these are a lot of mistakes that that a lot of players make. That I like to, you know, try to help you guys avoid, because you know, mistakes like that costs you money, and then, you know, then it swings the odds even further in the house's favor. You know, in the early video we went over you know, some basic strategy for blackjack. Now we're going to go into how and when to double down. We have 3 players here, each with $200, right? And we got one player here with an 11, one with a soft 17, and then one with a pair of 5s, right? Versus you know, dealer's 4 showing, right? So, you know, how the player will double down, I'll just put you know, up to, you know, his original bet right next to the hand. One card gets dealt. He only gets one, and the idea here is that with the 11, he's expecting a 21 out of his hand. So he's trying to kind of bet for power versus, you know, a card that's considered weak for the dealer anyway. So even if he doesn't make his card, right now his odds are still looking good, right? So, you know, in the cases here, we're going to do that with all 3 of these guys. Right, and here he's got a soft 18. Right, and then with a pair of 5s, a lot of times people, you know, like a lot of times new players will want to split a pair of 5s. You know, you never want to split those because it's better to just play it as a regular 10. So, then here with this hand here, he's got an 18. Dealer has 14. He busts with 24, and instead of getting paid once, you get paid twice. So now everybody gets 400, and everybody's happy. You know, anytime you have a chance to get more money on the tables when the dealer is weak, you know, with the low card, right, or you're really strong with a 10 or 11, you're always going to want to double down, right, and that's what's going to give you your edge at the tables. Hey guys, in an earlier video we went over basic strategy and also like how and when to double down. In this video, we're going to go over the ins and outs of splitting pairs. You know, here we've got 5 cases where you you may or may not want to split your pairs. Right here with a pair of 8s. If you want to split a pair, basically you just put the same amount of your bet next to your original bet. You know, and then just make a signal for the dealer, and then the dealer will split your cards, right? And then basically, the idea is that you're trying to maximize the value out of the individual cards as opposed to the pair. You know, 8s aren't a spectacular hand, but you always split them because otherwise you're dealing with the 16, which is not good. So, in the case of the 8s, the player gets an 11, which if the dealer wants to, they can double down their hand. All right, and then if they want to do that again with theirs, you can do it again, hoping for 21. At least this time he's got 18. He's got something. All right, and aces, when you split aces, you get one card only, and that's a house rule. All right, and in this case here, he's got a 17 and an 18. Pair of 4s. Dealer's showing a 7, which is not very strong, but it's better to play a hand like this as an 8, as opposed to splitting up a pair of 4s. So he's just going to hit. He's not going to want to split those. All right, 20s, never ever split under any circumstances. And the reason being is that for you to actually make money with your 10s, you would have to get another couple of 10s. And the odds of the 10s coming up don't really justify making a bold play like that. It's better to just take the 20. Most of the time you're going to win with it, so just leave it alone. And in the case here with the 10, it's a 10 because he does have a pair of 5s he could split, but then he's going to turn one hand that's potentially really good into 2 hands that are potentially very bad. So instead of doing that, he's going to double down, and he ends up with his hand. And the dealer, funny enough, dealer's got a pair also. Dealers, like the house cannot take the option to split. They have to play their hand as if the pair doesn't matter at all. He draws to 16, and he's got 17. So in the case here, the player here, unfortunately, he's got 16. He's out. This player with the 20 wins. 17. That's a push. It's neither a win or a loss. And this one here, it's 18. This one wins. This one is a push. And we have 18. And then this hand here, we have a 13. So basically, that's a push for them also. With pairs, aces and 8s you should always split. 10s and 5s you should never split. In the case of when you have a pair of 2s, you're supposed to do it versus the dealers 2 through 7. Same with a pair of 3s. 4s you should split only if the dealer has got a 5 or a 6, right? Because you're trying to maximize against his weakness. 5s you never split, like I mentioned. 6s you split versus a 2 through 6. 7s you split with 2 through 7. 8s you always split. 9s you split those with a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8 or a 9. All right, so basically a 10, king, queen, ace, and a 7. You leave it alone. 7 reason why is like if with a pair of 9s versus 7, you've got 18. He's probably got 17. So you probably got him beat already. And yeah, and 10s, like I said, never split under any circumstances because you have a 20. Hey guys, I wanted to just go into the insurance bet in blackjack and when to buy it. Basically, here on the layout, you see insurance pays 2 to 1. What it is a side bet that the dealer has blackjack. You'll get offered that only when the dealer is showing an ace. Right? The dealer will go around the table. Would you like insurance? And with insurance, then what you would have to do, you would have to put up half of your bet. So you would put up to half your original bet on the fact that he's got a blackjack. In the case if he does, then the bet would get paid 2 to 1, and then the player would lose his original bet, but then he gets it back in the form of his insurance. In the case that he doesn't, the dealer doesn't have blackjack, which I don't, then take the insurance money, lock that up, and then play would continue from there. Right? In the case of a the player with the blackjack, if player's got a blackjack versus an ace, what you can do, there are 2 ways to do it. Some casinos will actually require you to pay insurance. Right? I believe Atlantic City has that rule where you have to put up the money to get insurance, to get your money back. What a lot of other casinos do, they give you an option for even money, and it's actually the exact same thing. Where the player will get offered to take even money before I check for blackjack, right? And what ends up happening, and I'll just go over the math here. If he takes insurance and dealer does have blackjack, then he wins 1,000 here, pushes over here with the net win for 1,000. If the player doesn't take it and takes even money instead, player still gets 1,000. So either way, it's the exact same bet. And as far as when to do it, I'd advise against anybody taking insurance because the amount that you're getting paid, you get paid 2 to 1, and the odds that the dealer actually has a blackjack, it comes out to about 30% and change, right? Because there are 13 ranks of the cards, ace through king, and 4 of them are tens. So it doesn't really, like the math doesn't really warrant the play. Exceptions can be made where, like say, you just have a bad feeling because, a lot of times, gambling, that's what it comes down to. It's not always about making mathematically correct plays sometimes to win. And also in the case where if, instead of 1,000, the gentleman here had 10,000 and, he had no earthly business betting the 10,000 in the first place, and it represents his life savings or whatever. Not that I condone that kind of thing at all. But, in that case where he's got the option, he could just take 10,000 and walk, by all means take 10,000 and walk. But otherwise, in insurance, it's never a good idea to do it.